This model by WSI is of a Mercedes-Benz Actros 6x6 tractor and a Scheuerle InterCombi module trailer with a vessel bed. It's in the colours of Zaugg, a Swiss company. The packaging is really good because it consists of a couple of outer layers that protect a shrink-wrapped presentation box. It's very high quality, and it's good to see when you open the box that there's a sheet of instructions that covers the main assembly points. The model components are really well packed inside foam rubber, including the tractor unit, a couple of InterCombi modules, the gooseneck and the main vessel bed beams, and there are also a variety of adapters for fitting the vessel bed to the modules or the gooseneck. Also included is a bag of parts, which in fact contains lots of small bags of parts, mainly for the trailer. The only assembly to do on the tractor is to fit towing hitches front and rear, and on the front there's a cover that fits over the towing hitch, and there's a small pin which, with a little bit of effort and jiggling about, you can get in that secures the cover to the towing hitch. There's also a pin and guide to fit to the rear towing hitch, although on the review model the guide was missing a hole, so one had to be drilled in to make the pin fit. And hopefully that problem doesn't affect other models. The guide just fits into place at the rear of the tractor, and then the pin secures it in position. Moving on to the trailer, there are a number of parts to fit to form the basic configuration. So we'll start by fitting the two-line module to the gooseneck, and that works in the normal way with these Scheuerle units, in that they clip together and then you use a locking pin to secure them, but unfortunately on the review model the locking pin for some reason wasn't long enough, which is a bit unusual, and so this particular connection wasn't as tight as it normally is on these models. As you can see, the gooseneck can be set at various angles. The vessel bed beams just get pinned together to the various adapters, and this is really quite well engineered by WSI. The pins are really nice because they have painted ends so they don't look obtrusive when they're fixed in position. Once you've assembled the vessel bed together, you can attach it to the various Scheuerle InterCombi modules. The adapters fit onto the modules just like any other parts in WSI's InterCombi system, so you just use the locking pin. Although again, these connections were just not quite as solid as seen on previous reviews of Scheuerle InterCombi units. The last connection to form the trailer is just like the real thing. It just hooks over to the front adapter, and then the trailer is formed, although it's not sitting level because of the heavy gooseneck. But that's not a problem because WSI do include a couple of support legs which you can use on the gooseneck if you want to display it not connected to the tractor, and that works really well. And so it gives you another option as a display possibility if you want it. Moving to the other end of the trailer, there are a couple of items to fit which add detail, and these are the light boards which just clip to the underside of the rear of the module. Once you've got them installed in place, you clip them firmly with two linking beams which plug into the connection points on the module and into the underside of the light cluster. They are quite fiddly to fit, but once you've got them in place they form a very strong connection. The next parts to add are the cover plates to the module units, and these are nice metal pieces with a textured surface, and they just drop into place on the front and rear modules. There are two width marker boards which also clip on to the gooseneck, and they're only patterned on one side, so I'll attach them with the chevron pattern facing forward, which seems to be the closest to represent the real machine shown on the Zaugg website. With the trailer assembled, it can now be attached to the Mercedes-Benz tractor, and that's an easy fit because the pin on the gooseneck slots easily into place on the fifth wheel, and then you form the tractor and trailer. As usual, we'll start with the tractor first, and looking at the chassis, it's very detailed and the 6x6 transmission is modelled really well. The wheels are finely detailed, and there are different types of tyre on the front and rear axles. The Zaugg livery looks really smart, there's an authentic number plate, and the chevrons around the headlights add to the look. Behind the cab, the equipment tower is intricate, there's a very fine grab rail, but there's no air lines on this model. At the rear there's lots of diamond plated surfacing, and the rear light clusters look realistic. Moving over to the trailer elements, the gooseneck is nearly all metal, and there are plenty of hoses detailed. There's some excellent detail on the outside where the panel handles and hinges are really well painted. The modules are very well made with metal components, and even underneath there's excellent detail with tanks and hoses. On the outside there are some fine small graphics, including a maximum speed sign. At the rear the light boards are detailed, but it's interesting to see that the end bearing positions are unpainted on the module units. The vessel bed beams are well made and they have tiny tie-down loops detailed within the casting. Trying the tractor out on the test surface, and it rolls very well in a straight line. And looking underneath, the wheels on the rear axles are all joined onto the same axle rod. But one good feature on this WSI model is the steering at the front. It is extremely stiff, but the range of movement is much greater than is often the case on WSI tractor units. So more interesting poses are possible, and not only that, the model will even roll in a reasonable curve. The other main feature on the tractor is the tilting cab, and that works very well because it poses nicely in a tilted position, and that gives you a chance to see the detailed engine inside, which is well worth a close look. And when you're done, the cab shuts nicely. The Scheuerle modules are very well engineered. They've got excellent suspension with springing on each of the individual wheel sets, and they all have a nice range of movement. The steering on the 4-line unit is all linked together, and it's also proportional, so that at one end of the module the wheels steer a lot more than at the other end, and so when you push the module along it traces out a nice curve. And the 2-line module is more of the same. It's got also excellent suspension and springing. And the only difference on this module is the steering, which is parallel so that all of the wheel sets turn the same amount. Because the model engineering is very good, it's fun to actually look down into the top of the module and see all the various linkages working as you steer. Now we'll have a look at the performance of the trailer doing its job, which is carrying a load. So in this case we'll try a big Liebherr LB28 piling rig. Now this is a heavy model, and because there's some flexibility in the module connections, you do have to do a bit of adjustment to get the model to sit right, but when you've done that you get a very interesting looking pose. Next up as an alternative is that you can just pose the two module units connected together just to make a very short trailer. They can be joined up and locked with the bolt underneath if you like, and then you can just add the plates on to get your short trailer. The vessel bed comes with a couple of adapters, so you can have it in its narrow beam configuration, or you can have it in a wider configuration, either as a normal width deck, or it can be telescoped out to get a longer length trailer. And the other possibility is to increase the width of it for carrying some wider vessels. And although there's a bit of stiffness in the mechanism, it is well engineered and does produce a rigid vessel bed. And at full size you can produce a model that's about 65 centimeters long, and it looks very impressive. At the other end of the scale you can connect the vessel bed direct to the gooseneck, and there are a couple of plastic ramps which you can also add on. And then in this shorter configuration you can have a smaller load, which in this case is a Liebherr R916 excavator. This is a very flexible model from WSI with plenty of display configurations to please any collector. The detailing is very good, the features work well, and the Zaugg colour scheme looks nice. It's an easy model to highly recommend.